I guess you're like a sculptor, and you're like checking on your coming down and checking on the chiseling from yesterday.
Absolutely. I call it life sculpting. Like a great spiritual teacher once talked about, the soul being the diamond covered in mud, and I feel like I'm cutting away at some of that mud. It's different, but, similar analogy,
Yeah.
You got the pure life force, the pure spirit, and then you got all this. That's why I say my main job is a glorified sewage worker.
Well, things typically the next day, like, is it like I guess it just depends, but sometimes the release sticks, and sometimes it might pop back or something. Like, it just if a lot of the tension's still there, or
Yeah, I think more commonly, if we don't get it out by its roots, then it'll come back very quickly. Like a weed in the garden sort of thing. And then like obviously things can go back out, and there's going to be differences because, like, say for example, we've done a lot, 5 or 6 hours work or whatever on that leg mostly, right? So it's going to affect then also your posture, because suddenly you've gone from having your tighter leg on one side, as you felt yesterday. Now your tighter leg's actually the other one,
mm-hmm.
And so it can then throw a few things out as well in that temporary period where, we've done one leg and not the other.
Like balance.
Yeah, your balance is like going to be a little bit different, and most of the time what I find is people notice, all of a sudden they notice how tight they are on the other side, even though I haven't, because they got something to compare to now as well.
Yeah.
I was teaching a course, and I did a demo on a guy, and I did like 2 hours on one leg, and I really loosened it up. And like 5 years later, I saw him, and he's going, remember when you did that demo on me? And I'm like, oh yeah, 7,432 massages ago. I remember clearly, But anyway, he was like, he's like, man, I still feel one leg's looser than the other, because like in that 2 hours, we obviously, if he was say, whatever, 35 or something, we might have gotten rid of 25 years worth of tension in one leg. So he might still have had 10 years worth, but then he adds another 5 years, and he still feels the difference between, 40 years of tension in one leg and 20 in the other.
Wow.
So a lot of the way I'm working these days is it's like, permanent in the sense of, if we got 30% out of that leg, that's 30% out. Not to say that you couldn't do something with your body and put some of that back in, but it obviously took you a long time to get that tight. And that's why when I talk about excavation, I encourage people to go the 100%, if they can. Most people, that's 10 to 40 hours, but that's under the age of 60, as people are getting into any older than that, it can be up to 100 hours, or like with Phyllis's lady, it's more than 100, who's in her 80s, because you can hardly touch her toe, like you're trying to loosen her, but the pain threshold, because of the tension so great, she actually had a pretty good pain threshold, but she was so tight, 80 years worth of tension. So it just takes time, but then she doesn't have that all she feels is, wow, I feel 20 years younger. I feel like I'm 65, not 85,
Mm-hmm.
So she just feels better. She doesn't, whereas I'm looking at what still needs to be done to make her as tension-free as we can possibly get her,
Have you kept in touch with her at all?
Yeah, I see her every year or two.
And
usually.
So how is her life?
She sees one of my therapists quite regularly that I've trained in Gympie. And it's massively improved, for her. Her doctors couldn't believe it because it's basically reversing arthritis, and then she ended up referring her doctors to my student there, and her nurses, and some of even her kids. And some people, could handle it, and other people just, oh, it's too, I don't want to feel this pain when I'm getting a massage. You know, she's like, it's funny because she'd come into the course, this 85-year-old woman, breathe, tell us to, come on, you can do it. You know, this old country Australian accent. She's such a character. I love her. She's cool.
Is there like a lot of Australian dialects, like, you know, meaning like in the U.S., like you said, you were just describing that is there like the upper crust dialect and the...
There is a few. There is a variation once you get there and you start to realize, and you can tell the difference between... I can tell the difference. Like, so certain of the states were definitely like prison colonies, you know, like New South Wales and Tasmania in particular. Like the Tasmanian accent's quite strong. I live down there, and it's like, oh, you going, yeah, fuck, all right, yeah, you know. Mm-hmm. And you got what's called an ochre accent, which is kind of like a real working class Aussie, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like every second. It's a kind of, yeah, it's every second word's a swear word, and a lot of kind of mumbling, you know. And then you've got people that are obviously more upper class English, and it's particularly around Adelaide, I find they tend to speak a little bit more properly and hold themselves differently, you know, like white New Zealanders, because white New Zealanders weren't prisoners, you know, so they almost resemble upper class English people. Mm-hmm. Whereas your Aussies, you know, a third were Irish, so that was a big influence. And then a lot were from like East London Cockneys and stuff, so lower class English. And yeah, you can tell the difference. And then you've got Aboriginal accent, which is a bit different again. Mm-hmm. And then so Adelaide and Perth, they tend to be. It feels to me like they're more straight, what I'd call straight. You know, like yeah, definitely not coming from that kind of convict. And that whole convict thing really kind of twisted people because like the Cockneys used to speak in a way, they'd especially speak in a language that the what they call the screws, you know, the prison guards couldn't understand. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot more slang with, you know, and, you know, like that was the traditional thing with Australian, like they'd call a redhead bluey, they'd call, you know, it was just kind of like all this shit you had to kind of understand what the hell they're talking about. So the accent's different, the slang's different, you know, but it's not as varied as like the UK or America, you know, where you got the Alabama accent and you got like New Jersey, you know, and all that, you know. Mm-hmm. The variations aren't quite as strong, but you definitely can see the different classes. Corey didn't believe me, some of my, because I can do some good Australian accents, and then when you go past this pub, the guy's speaking exactly like that. You know, I always say for Americans to go there, if you want to speak Australian, mumble, like as if you're drunk, you know. Don't pronounce R's on the end of words, and swear a lot more than you would here. Mm-hmm. And just fucking throw in a mate every once in a while, and every second sentence should include the word fucking. You fucking go, mate, oh, fucking, you know, and you just mumble a lot. And basically, make sure your communication doesn't have a lot of in-depth meaning. And every second sentence is kind of an attempt at a joke, which often fails. But, you know, you're supposed to laugh as if you're drunk anyway, and it doesn't mean anything, you know. Mm-hmm. That's the high Australian cultural standards. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like coming to St. Louis, like you drive around, it's like there's no pubs, you know. There's no, you know, there's like a few like shady looking liquor establishment things that are like liquor stores, you know. But they're not like in Australia. If you go into a town, there's just pubs everywhere, you know. Yeah. So it's like replace the pubs with churches. And that's one of the differences between Australia and America, which is pretty fundamental.
It's kind of tender.
Bit too. Maybe I'll go a bit lighter. Yeah.
No. It's fine. I was just saying. I was just noting the. Like, kind of curious about like, well, what's
Yeah.
Why is that kind of like? No, but it's
It's
the
fine.
pressure's fine. I just
Okay.
I'm just kind of trying to note like, and that you might like kind of just react. Oh yeah, that's because blankety blank or whatever.
I think that's just because I was working there yesterday, mostly, that it's a bit sore. You know, sometimes like working the second 2 days in a row in the same spot, it's kind of like going to the gym and working a muscle twice. You know, you sort of need that time to recuperate, you know, just on the temporary muscle area. Most people, you know, I find are actually a little bit sore on areas that I've worked but not released. You know, once the muscle's released, it's not sore. But if you sort of work it a bit and maybe you haven't got the roots out completely, or, you know, then they're a bit sore on that area.
Oh, so the soreness, if you're saying that if it's released, then there's likely not going to be the soreness.
Yeah, that's right. It's like the blood flow comes in. But if you've worked a spot, like, and that's what I learned, why it's so important to work the bands at the end, is because if you work higher up on a band of tension and you keep trying to push it to get it out, you're like, okay, come on, get this thing out, you know, like a yang, what I call a yang style approach, you know.
Yeah.
You can just make it sore. You can overwork it. You don't really loosen it. You just make it kind of sore because the anchor points aren't gone. And so the person will just feel a bit sore there the next day, and pretty much their tension will come back pretty quick too. That's why it's so important to get things out from the roots.
It's interesting. You also kind of like this jaws thing. It's probably this is like
A
lifetime.
key.
Like,
Yeah.
On stress. Like I've just kind of like that's been obviously a defense mechanism thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's sort of, I think, going to be a key thing in your treatment plan and your healing you know, is getting to the root cause of whatever, like this is, you know, like kind of right in here.
Yeah.
Why is it so, what we call so bloody tight in Australia, you know? But as we were talking about yesterday, you know, it's that kind of like, it's a power trip, you know, that people can put onto you as well. Like, you know, if you got something to say that's going to stir people up, you know, bring up their stuff because you're speaking truth. You know, our society is so full of bullshit, you know what I mean? And full of like control, and, you know, you should be a good little fucking boy and shut the fuck up, and, you know, don't question, and, you know, and that can lead to, and there's, you know, I mean, it's going on for generations, you know what I mean? It's like kind of like, and we absorbed that even from our parents. They had to deal with that, and, you know. And I think it does go back to the corruption of so long ago, you know. You could look at Henry VIII. You could look at, you know, the Roman Empire, you know. It's a fucking weird-ass world. So I'm just trying to go fairly gentle so that I can loosen it, but I don't want it to be overwhelmingly painful.
Yeah, it feels real gentle.
Yeah. Is it too gentle?
I think it's appropriate.
Oh yeah, that was. I know myself. I had a really tight jaw for a long time.
Really?
Yep. And it was really painful when somebody worked on it. You got to get that right pressure in the jaw, otherwise it's easy to hit that point where it's just too much, you know. And you want to feel it. You want to coax it. Like I call it coaxing to release. You're like, okay, come on, let go. You know, not forcing. It's not like if I just force into there, it's just like bruising, and it's like an assault on the body. You know, whereas what I'm trying to bring into my fingers is more like an energy of, come on, let it go. Because when you think about it, a lot of it is mental anyway. You know, like it's like, why did we tighten up our jaw? You know.
So the sensitivity is like you said, you're just seeing with the fingers are kind of like you're kind of seeing that line.
Yeah.
Or you've developed that over time.
Over time, yeah. It's like seeing in the dark, you know what I mean? Or listening. You know, like a lot of people could go into a forest and not know what they're hearing, you know? Just noise to them, you know? Whereas somebody who's used to that forest can go, that's the bird call of this. That's the, you know, the sound of this, you know, whatever, this animal, you know?
So you have your eyes closed right now?
Yeah, I have my eyes closed right now. So, because I feel like I can focus better with my eyes closed because I'm going right in. Like I said, it's like a kind of X-ray, or, you know what I mean? Like you're kind of like going into this other like seeing with a different realm. Yeah, seeing with a different eye, you know? And I'm just, and really bringing my awareness into my fingers, both from a receptive point of view of going, what's going on, but also bringing a certain energy in there, like I said, of trying to go, come on, let this go, you know? Like it's my intention, you know?
Yeah.
Which is to try and encourage you to let it go. But, you know, it's so solid, your jaw, you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's not just given away easy. And it's being what we call a stubborn fucker, you know? Not to insult you, I'm just saying, you know? This tension in particular.
Yeah.
Like you say, I feel like this has been there a fucking long time, you know what I mean? Like it's like this is going back, you know? This isn't like, ooh, my jaw tightened up yesterday. It's like the fucking jaw's been tight for a long friggin' time. And so if I get to a point where I can't loosen up the jaw anymore, it's also related to these bands coming down here, which you can feel are quite tight on both sides. Mm-hmm. And that's coming from the thumbs. So sometimes I even then go, okay, let me change my strategy a bit and let me work, because like say you're tightening your jaw up when I'm working on your feet and the energy's not able to come out, then what I'll do is, okay, let's do actually the thumbs so that we can get this to kind of be nice and soft. And then when I work the feet, push that energy up, that it actually comes out, you know? Mm-hmm. I still remember when I did a head massage on a lady in one of my courses. I got it on video. And I did her jaw, and this massive emotional release came out, and this energy, and her whole body was shaking, and, you know, so much had been held in her jaw, you know?
Didn't our friend Jason, he had that thing with his knee, right?
Yeah, he had quite a few experiences there with different things that were
like,
going
was something like an old girlfriend who'd dumped him when he was 16,
oh, yeah. Yep.
And it was like when you
in his knee, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was about to have like a knee surgery or something. I forgot. Something was going on. And yeah, once that came out, all that emotion and energy came out.
Dang, that's just like so like cosmic, you know? It's just
well,
like,
it is.
What? Like what?
It's like you store shit in your body, you know? I mean,
how do you separate in your mind? Because like my wife will mention that during her intro for classes about memories being stored in like the gut. Mm-hmm. I guess, and I, you know, but I think I was under, like, I think I was under the erroneous thinking always, like, the mind is subtle, but I was always thinking it was like kind of attached to the brain, but it's actually because it's just covering the spirit soul. So it's like your whole body,
yeah,
could be basically memories are
it's not just the brain.
It's not just in the covering is
the gray matter of the brain.
Is coverings over
the entire body.
So it's like that's kind of like really far out to think, like to really think about, right?
Oh yeah.
Because it's like yeah, your knee, your.
Because it's also kind of like there's not a strong. The brain and the nervous system are so connected, right? So it's not like
spreading it through all the
nerves and everything as well. But it's kind of like, to me, I just take a awe and reverence point of view to the understanding, because people can go, oh, you know, through anatomy and all that, physiology, we can understand the human body. Yeah, because they study dead ones. But can you understand the interaction between the soul, the memories, the emotions, you know, the subtle body and the physical. And it's like, no, we haven't studied that very well. We don't understand that, you know. They don't understand much about sleeping. They don't understand much about dreams. They don't understand, you know, like how do dreams work? You know what I mean? Well, we haven't really kind of understood that yet, you know. I'm going to do some work on your thumbs to just try and help open up that jaw, which will then help open up the leg. Plus, I want to give your foot just a little bit of a rest.